Hi, nice to see you again. Now I'm going to talk about English sentence structure. My name is Pipetujan Moko from Sanata Dharma University, Yogyakarta. Now, let me begin with the theories and objectives. The first, the theories. The basic theories which I will use in this talk is the principles and parameters theory on the government binding theory, Chomsky 1981, Chomsky 1986b, and Ekman 1994. Which basically the theory which I will use here is the expert theory and the lexicon or mental dictionary. And then the objectives of the talk are first to explain the elements of the various types of English sentence. Second, to explain the structure of the various types of English sentence. So these are the two objectives of the talk on English sentence structure today. In English, we have several kinds of sentences. The first is a sentence like Sandra bought a necklace. This one is usually called a verbal sentence because the main element or the conceptual element is a verbal phrase. And then second is Dr. Parker is a priest. This one is usually called a nominal sentence because we have a priest nominal phrase here. And then the third is an adjective phrase, very beautiful. Here we have very beautiful as the main element or as the conceptual element of the sentence. And the fourth, we have a prepositional phrase in the box. The conceptual element here, the jewelry is in the box. The fifth, we have a sentence with it. It's difficult to get a good job. It here is usually called the introductory it or the dummy it because it here does not have a meaning. The next, it's still a dummy it, but here we have a noun. It's a pleasure to meet you. And then the last sentence I will talk about is a sentence like there is a good article in the journal. Here we also have the dummy element, namely there here is meaningless. There is a good article in the journal. So these are the sentences which I will talk about in this video. The first is the sentence, Sandra bought a necklace. In fact, we have talked about the sentence, Sandra bought a necklace in the previous video. Now we have Sandra bought a necklace. This one is a CP. CP here goes to C bar. A sentence is a CP. So we can say that a sentence is a complementizer phrase. And then the C bar here branches into C as the head and TP as the complement. So we can say that a C, a complementizer, takes a TP as its complement. And then we have TP with the XP or an empty element here as a specifier and T bar. And the T bar here branches into T, the head, and the VP as the complement. So here we can say that T here takes a VP as its complement. T takes a VP as a complement. T here is ED because it's a past tense. And then the VP here branches into Sandra as a specifier. And then we have V by as the head and the necklace as the complement. So this is the D structure of the sentence, Sandra bought a necklace. And then by will move and merge with ed, and then Sandra will move to the specified position of T, or this one is a subject position. So as it is clear from the diagram, a sentence is produced with a series process of complementation. C as the head takes a TP as the complement, and then T as the head here takes a VP as a complement, and then by here as head takes a necklace as a complement, and Sandra as a specifier. Here we have a series of a process of complementation. Now let's move on to the next sentence, namely the nominal sentence. We have a nominal sentence, Dr. Parker is a priest. What does the sentence talk about? Well, it's about priesthood. So Dr. Parker is a priest, talks about priesthood, and the priesthood here belongs to Dr. Parker. Whose priesthood is that? Dr. Parker. And then because we have Dr. Parker here, Dr. Parker here as a specifier of priesthood, then we can say that Dr. Parker is also the specifier of priest. So in this sentence, Dr. Parker is also the specifier of priest, of the noun priest. This is an analogy. If Dr. Parker is a specifier of priesthood, then we can also say that Dr. Parker is a specifier of priest. So in English, we can say that we have two kinds of specifiers. The first is a semantic specifier. Dr. Parker here is a semantic specifier of priest. Dr. Parker is kind of the owner of the state of priesthood. And the next we have a syntactic specifier, which is and the here. But in this case, we have Well, we can say that the structure of English here is in a way similar to that of Indonesian. In Indonesian, we have a sentence like mereka suka sekali buku saya itu. We have mereka is they suka like sekali very much, and buku saya, book my the. So the noun buku saya itu has two specifiers, namely saya, my, and itu the. And then here we have the noun phrase Dr. Parker, a priest. Dr. Parker is a specifier, and then the NP here, a priest, which is in fact an N bar. Is a specifier again, and priest is the head. Here the status is N bar here, but it doesn't have a complement. Now let's see the structure of the sentence Dr. Parker is a priest. We have Dr. Parker is a priest. This one is a complementizer phrase. It branches into C bar, and C bar here branches into C and TP. The TP here branches into an empty specifier and T bar. The T bar here is ES, and then it takes a VP as its complement. And the VP here branches into NP and V bar. The V bar here branches into V as the head and NP as the complement. The V here is B. So here is and here B. It's the head of the VP here. It doesn't have a specifier. It's empty. B does not need a specifier. B doesn't have a specifier because it's meaningless. And it takes an NP as its complement. The NP here can be shown over here. This is the NP. The NP here branches into an NP and N bar. The NP, which is the specifier here, is Dr. Parker, and the N bar here branches into a determiner phrase and N bar, and the determiner phrase is R here, and the N bar here branches into N and priest. So this is the structure of the sentence Dr. Parker is a priest. We can say that this is the D structure of Dr. Parker is a priest. Well, we have B here as the head of the VP here, but this one is more to meet the requirement that every sentence should have a verb, and the verb here is be. So B here will move to ES, and then Dr. Parker as a specifier of the priest over here will move to the specifier of T and becomes the subject of the sentence. Now let's continue with the sentence. We have the necklace is very beautiful. The question is, what does the sentence talk about? And the answer is, it's about beauty. Whose great beauty is that? And the answer is, it's the necklace great beauty. So if we look at the sentence over here, great beauty, the necklace here is a specifier of beauty. And we can show in the diagram over here, the necklace is a specifier. This is the whole thing here, and the whole structure is an NP. The necklace is a specifier, great is an attribute, and beauty is the head. It has a status of N bar of here because beauty does not have a specifier. And then we can also say in an analogy of the necklace great beauty that here the necklace is also the specifier of the adjective phrase, and very is the attribute of beautiful. Now let's see the structure of the sentence. The necklace is very beautiful. Here it branches into here CP here branches into C bar, and C bar here branches into C and TP. TP here branches into an empty position of specifier over here. It's always empty. And then T bar here branches into T and VP. The VP here branches into NP as a specifier. The T here is ES because it's present. And then the VP here branches into NP and V bar. And the V bar here branches into V and AP. So the adjective phrase in the necklace is very beautiful is the complement of V. The V here is B, and AP here is the complement of B. The structure of AP here can be displayed over here. This is a adjective phrase AP, and it branches into NP as a specifier and A bar, and bar branches into intensifier phrase and A bar again. The specifier of A bar here is the necklace. Then the A bar here branches into A, or it goes to A because it doesn't have a specifier, and the intensifier phrase is very. And the A bar here is beautiful. This structure is the D structure of the necklace is very beautiful. And then in the S structure, the necklace will move to the S position, forming is over here. And then the necklace as a specified position of A over here will move to the position of the specifier of T and becomes the subject of the sentence. Now let's move to the next type of sentence, the prepositional sentence. We have the sentence, the jewelry is in the box. What is the sentence about? What does the sentence talk about? Here we can say that the sentence talks about location, is in. Whose location is it? It's the location of the jewelry, and the jewelry here is in. So we have jewelry, the sentence talks about the jewelry, and the relation here is in, and it's in the box. And then we have an object, and in here, and you have owner. So in the object here, the jewelry belongs to the owner. So here the box here. So the box here is an object, and the object here belongs to the owner. The owner here is the jewelry. The box belongs to the jewelry, and the relation is indicated with the preposition in. And then we can discipline the structure of the PP over here. This is the structure of the PP. The jewelry is a specifier, and we have P bar over here, branches into P as the head and the box as the complement of P. So once again, the jewelry is the specifier, and in here is the head, and the box is the complement of in. Now let's see how the structure of the sentence, the jewelry is in the box. Now let's see the structure of the prepositional sentence. We have the sentence, the jewelry is in the box. It's a CP. The CP here goes to C bar, and the C bar branches into C as the head and TP. And then TP here branches into a specifier, which is empty, and T bar. And T bar here branches into T and VP. The T here is ES, and the VP branches into an NP and V bar. And then the V bar here branches into V and PP. The V bar here is B, and the specified position of B here is empty because B does not need a specifier. B does not take a specifier. B doesn't have a specific meaning in English. It's just dummy. And then B here takes a PP as its complement. The structure of PP here is like this. It's a PP. The PP here branches into an NP as a specifier and P bar. The NP as a specifier is the jewelry, and then the P bar here branches into P as the head and NP as the complement. The P here is N, this is the head, and NP here, the box here is the complement of N. Well, we can say that this is the D structure of the sentence. The jewelry is in the box. And then in the S structure, B here will move to the ES position, merges with the ES station, forming S. And then this is the movement. And then the jewelry here as a specifier of N will finally move to the specifier position of T to meet the requirement that every sentence in English should have a subject. So this is the, we can say that this is the S structure of the sentence, the jewelry is in the box. Now let's move to the next sentence, the introductory sentence in English. We have the sentence, it's difficult to get a good job. We can start the discussion with the question, what is difficult? What does the sentence talk about? What's difficult? And the answer is, to get a good job is difficult. Well, if we have the sentence, the necklace is very beautiful, then to get a good job is difficult. Then we can say that to get a good job, similar to this, is also the specifier of difficult. So to get a good job is a specifier of difficult. It's the same as the necklace over here is a specifier of very beautiful. So to get a good job is a specifier of difficult. And we can display, we can show the diagram of the adjective phrase, the A bar here, adjective phrase here, and the AP here branches into difficult. This is A bar. And to get a job is a specifier. This one is different because the specifier here comes out of the head. Difficult here is the head. It has the status of A bar, but it doesn't have a complement. It has to get a job as a specifier. Well, a specifier can come before or after the head. Like in Indonesian, we can have buku saya. Saya is a specifier of buku. So to get a good job here is a specifier of difficult. Now we have a similar problem here. The novel was written in 2010. The VP of these two sentences are the same. Bride as the head, and then Mary as a specifier. The novel is the complement, and in 2010 is age young. But the question is why the sentence has Mary as a subject, and here we have novel as a subject. Well, it depends on what the speaker wants to say. If a speaker wants to emphasize the active process, then she has or he has an active sentence. If he or she wants to say more on the result of the action, then he or she will have a passive sentence like the novel was written in 2010. What is similar with the case is that we can have to get a good job is difficult. This sentence we have to get a good job as a subject. But why do we have it here? Why don't we just move to get a good job? Why don't we just have the sentence to get a good job is difficult? Well, that's a matter of choice, a matter of what to emphasize. Here, the emphasis is on the difficult. So it's difficult to get a good job. Instead of having to move, instead of moving to get a good job to become the specifier, but here we have it's difficult to get a good job. This is a CP, and the CP here branches into C bar. The C bar branches into C as the head and TP as the complement of C. And then the TP here branches into a specifier which is empty and T bar, and the T bar here branches into T over here and VP. The T here is ES, and the VP here branches into NP as a specifier, and V bar here branches into V and AP, and the V here is B, and we have an adjective phrase or AP as the complement of P. Now the structure of AP is like this. We have an adjective phrase, and then the AP here branches into A bar and TP. So to get a good job is TP. Remember, we have three kinds of T. The first is the ES and ED, the inflectional T. The second is can be, must, will, shall, the modal auxiliary verb. And the third is to infinitive. So we have a TP over here. I think it's not necessary to analyze to get a good job into its element. Just to get a good job is a tense phrase with to is the head, and to get a good job is the complement of to. And then A here is difficult. So this is the D structure of the sentence. It's difficult to get a good job. We have adjective phrase which branches into A bar and TP. The TP is to get a good job, and the A bar here branches into A, which is difficult. We can say that this is the D structure of the sentence. It's difficult to get a good job. In the S structure, B will move to the ES position over here and matches with the S, forming S. Now let's move on to the next sentence. We have the introductory It. It's a pleasure to meet you. What does the sentence talk about? So the sentence talk about the pleasure. And what is a pleasure? To meet you. To meet you is a pleasure. Here we can say that to meet you is a specifier of so what does the sentence talk about? And the answer is the pleasure. So what does this sentence talk about? The answer is a pleasure. And what is the pleasure? The pleasure is to meet you. To meet you is the pleasure. So we can say that to meet you here is a specifier of a pleasure. We can see the structure over here. This is an NP. To meet you is a specifier. So we have an NP over here. This is a specifier, and we have the intermediate N bar over here, a pleasure. This one is in fact also a noun phrase, but because we have another specifier, so we can treat this as an N bar with as a specifier and pleasure as the head. It doesn't have a complement. Well, this is the same as Dr. Parker is a priest. So a priest is Dr. Parker. Dr. Parker is a priest. Here, to meet you is a pleasure. A pleasure is to meet you. So a pleasure here is the head, and to meet you is the specifier. And then in the sentence here, Dr. Parker, the specifier, and priest here is the head. We have N bar, a priest over here. So in the structure of the NP, a pleasure to meet you is the same as the structure of the NP, Dr. Parker, a priest. The difference is that to meet here is at the back. Well, in the D structure, it doesn't matter whether a specifier is before or after. Here, the specifier is after the head, and here the specifier is before the head. We have it's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you is a CP, and then C here branches into C bar. C bar branches into C and TP. The TP here branches into an empty position over here. It's an empty position, and TP and T bar over here. Then the T bar here branches into T and VP. The T here is ES, and the VP branches into NP and V bar. The V bar here branches into V and NP. NP here is the complement, and the V here is B. So B here takes an NP as its complement. Now let me talk about the structure on the NP over here. We have the NP over here. The NP here branches into noun bar and TP. The TP here is to meet you. Here, to meet you is a phrase with the head is tense. As we remember, there are three kinds of tense: the es or et, the inflectional suffix, the modal auxiliary verb can be must, and the to infinitive over here, like this. And then the N bar here branches into DP and N bar. The DP here is a, and then the N bar here goes to N, the head, and the head here is a pleasure. So we can say that this is the D structure of the sentence. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is the configurations of the elements which the head requires. The head here is C, ES or T, B as a verb here. B here requires an NP as a complement, and then the NP here has a pleasure as the head and to meet you as a specifier. In the S structure, B here will move to ES and merges with ES and form is. Here, TP, to meet you, as a specifier of pleasure does not move to the specifier of T. To meet the requirement that every sentence should have a subject, to meet here as a specifier of pleasure does not move to the specifier of T. Instead, the introductory it inserted as a subject of the sentence. Well, now let's talk about the next type of sentence, the introductory there. We have a sentence, there is a good article in the journal. The question is, what does the sentence talk about? And the answer is a good article. And the answer is, it's about a good article. The question again is, where is the good article? And the answer is in the journal. So we have a good article and the journal. We can say that a good article in the journal. This is the relation of a good article in the journal. So here we can say that this is in here is what the sentence is about. A good article in the journal. So we have a prepositional phrase. This is the structure of the prepositional phrase. We have a prepositional phrase, a good article as a specifier, and then in the journal is a P bar, and then in here as the head, text in the journal as the complement. So once again, the sentence has a prepositional phrase or a PP as its conceptual element, a good article in the journal. There is a good article in the journal, it's a CP, and the CP here branches into C bar, and C bar branches into C and TP. TP here branches into a specifier, which is always empty, and T bar. T bar here branches into T as the head, and VP as its complement. And the VP here branches into NP and V bar. The T here is ES, it's in the present. And the V bar here branches into V and PP. The V here is B. Here, the specifier of B, once again, it's empty because the verb be does not need a specifier. The complement of be here is prepositional phrase, a PP. Let's see the structure of the PP. We have a PP over here. The PP branches into NP and PP, which is in fact a P bar. The NP is a good article, and then the P bar branches into P and NP. The P is in, and the NP is the complement of in the journal. This is the structure of the sentence. There is a good article in the journal. And then in the S structure, B will move to the ES position and merges with the ES forming S. And here, the TP here is empty. To meet the requirement that a sentence has a subject in the S structure, then the word there is inserted over here to show an existential meaning. There here is inserted. Now let's see what we have talked about. These are the elements of non-verbal sentences in English. First, we have functional elements, the CTV. So in English, we have elements which are required by a universal principle, C. Every sentence is a CP. And then we have the local or English rule, namely that every sentence should have a T and V. The second element is conceptual element. Here we can have an NP as the conceptual element, like in John is an English student. The NP is John, an English student. And then we can have an AP as the conceptual element. John is very smart. The AP is John very smart. We also have an AP in the sentence, it's expensive to live in a big city. The AP is expensive to live in a big city. And then we have PP, John's in class. Here, the PP, John in class. And then we also have there is John in class. The NP is John in class. This is the same as there is a book. Well, those are the elements of English non-verbal sentences. We have talked about the elements. We have talked about the functional and conceptual elements of English. Let's see what we have not covered. Or let's see the residual problems. First, we have a sentence like it's essential that every student have a laptop. We have essential that. We haven't talked about that. And then a sentence like it's in the morning that John came home. We have a prepositional phrase in the morning after be, or it's a clap sentence. And then we have it's John who came at 4. So here we have a noun, it's John who came at 4. Instead of a noun and to infinitive, we have a noun and a clause or a relative clause who came at 4. And then we have, there is a book which I want to show you. Here we have a relative clause which I want to show you. How is the structure of the sentence with these elements? There is a book which I want to show you. And then we have a sentence like there are many articles good for your research. Here you have many articles, a noun, and then good for your research. How is the structure of a sentence with an adjective after a noun in the introductory it like this? And then we also have a sentence like there is one student who I like much. Who I like much again is a relative clause and it modifies student. How is the structure of a sentence with a relative clause after a noun and introductory it like this? And this is the last. There is someone waiting for you outside. Here we have waiting for you outside, a present progressive waiting for you outside. The question is, how is the structure of this sentence? Here we still have several sentences with the introductory it and introductory there. Well, that's all what we can talk about now. Thank you very much. In my next video, I will talk about questions in the expository. As we know, there are two kinds of questions in English, namely verbal questions or yes/no questions and pronominal questions. That's what we are going to talk about in the next presentation. Thank you very much.